In the years following the Revolutionary War, the newly independent United States faced an immediate internal collapse. An economic depression paralyzed trade, and debt-ridden farmers in Massachusetts sparked armed uprisings like Shays' Rebellion, throwing the states into a state of near anarchy. This domestic instability stemmed from the deliberately weak central government established immediately after the Revolution. Under this initial framework, the government lacked the authority to levy federal taxes or regulate interstate commerce. Without these powers, the states descended into trade disputes that the federal government was legally powerless to resolve. In May 1787, 55 delegates convened in Philadelphia to address these failures. James Madison arrived at this convention with a radical agenda, though the meeting was officially intended only to revise the existing articles. Madison recognized that a loose alliance of sovereign states could not hold. A simple revision of the existing system was incapable of addressing its deep-seated structural flaws. Survival depended on a total replacement of the government's foundations. Madison proposed a robust federal framework featuring a strict separation of powers. This design moved beyond a simple assembly of states, creating a distinct executive branch with the authority to enforce federal law. This proposal triggered an intense national debate. Federalists supported the centralized authority, while anti-federalists feared the executive branch would eventually mirror the monarchy they had just overthrown. To secure the necessary support for ratification, Madison drafted the Bill of Rights, adding explicit protections for individual liberties to the new constitutional structure. The finalized Constitution attempted to solve a difficult equation. It provided the authoritative national government required for stability while maintaining the strict legal constraints needed to prevent a return to autocracy. Madison had engineered a republic on paper, but his constitutional machine was an untested theory. It remained to be seen if a system defined by checks and balances could survive a direct collision with a hostile international superpower. By 1809, Madison had been elevated to the presidency, following the administration of his longtime political ally, Thomas Jefferson. He inherited a geopolitical crisis. British naval forces enforced trade restrictions paralyzing American exports and seized American sailors. The threat also extended into the North American interior, where British operatives funded Native American resistance to obstruct American expansion. The architect of the Constitution's constraints was now forced to test them. In June 1812, Madison took the unprecedented step of asking Congress for a formal declaration of war against Great Britain. Waging a foreign war exposed the friction between military necessity and the legal limits Madison had placed on executive authority. He was attempting to prosecute a major conflict using a government designed to be slow and decentralized. The first 2 years of the war revealed deep vulnerabilities. The United States were required to defend a massive coastline. These failures reached a crisis point in August 1814, when British troops successfully invaded Maryland and breached the nation's capital. The British set fire to the White House and the Capitol, forcing the federal government to flee into the surrounding countryside. For a moment, the central administration of the United States effectively ceased to function. As Washington burned, the institutional structures Madison had theorized in Philadelphia were being tested to the point of collapse under a foreign occupation. In the immediate aftermath of the burning of Washington, the federal government was scattered and its administrative authority was at a breaking point. Yet the Republic did not fracture. The successful American defense of Baltimore halted the British momentum, proving that the military framework Madison helped establish could recover from a catastrophic blow. Diplomatic negotiations in Europe finally led to the Treaty of Ghent in December 1814. The agreement essentially restored the pre-war status quo, ending the fighting without either side conceding territory. Because of the communication delay across the Atlantic, one final battle occurred after the peace was signed. In January 1815, General Andrew Jackson led American forces to a decisive victory at the Battle of New Orleans. Although the war technically ended in a diplomatic stalemate, the military defense of the nation and the victory at New Orleans were hailed domestically as a total validation of American sovereignty. A wave of nationalism followed the war, ushering in the era of good feelings. This new nationalist consensus temporarily quieted the fierce partisan divisions that had defined the country's first 2 decades. Madison retired from the presidency in 1817, having evolved from a theoretical architect of laws into a battle-tested executive. He left the office not as a disgraced academic, but as a leader who had maintained the constitutional framework through its most severe trial. Madison's legacy rests on a dual success. He designed a government of checks and balances, then proved it could survive the fires of war without abandoning its principles. He demonstrated that a republic bound by law was resilient enough to withstand the ultimate stress test.